that we see a few survivors walking through the streets of Hong Kong still confused about why anyone would need Mechagodzilla's head. Then Jason asked loudly, they might have taken the head of that mechanical crap, but why the hell would they slaughter entire camp? Then George answered, I guess they didn't want anyone else to know about whatever the hell they are planning to do with that head. Then Jason said quietly, I guess you are right. But we didn't even get the chance to bury all of them. George nodded his head and kept walking. Then they heard helicopter sounds. George shouted, hide you fools. And they all rushed inside the nearest building. Then we see helicopter which has logo of Nirax on it. Jason whispered, what the hell is Nirax? Bad guys. George whispered back. Then helicopter circled back and disappeared. Jason came out of building and said under his breath, what the hell is happening? After that we see 14 helicopters carrying the head of Mechagodzilla and we get to see title. Hobyo, Somalia. Northeastern Africa. We see giant futuristic base built near the shore. Then we see at least 30 warships surrounding the base, each filled with heavy armored soldiers. Then we get back to the base. It was so long, about 800 meters in length and 400 meters in width. Then we see a giant hole in the center of the base, but the lights are completely off in there. Then we see helicopters passing the giant penthouse and we see a skinny man in his early 30s standing near the glass wall looking down at whole base. Then he hears noises from his walkie-talkie. The person on the walkie-talkie is saying that they've delivered what they were asked for. Then the man smiles and tells them, good job, we really needed that head, and put his walkie-talkie on the table behind him. Then he went towards kitchen and was about to open the refrigerator when he heard the knocking on the door. He shouted, it's open. Come in. Then an old man in his 60s opened the door and walked towards with happy expression on his face. Then the man shouted, who else? If not our famous Alvin Clark. Alvin smiled and told him, looks like they've brought the package. This plan better work. Michael Webster. Michael smiled and said, this will work. It has to. Otherwise I won't be able to avenge my family. And his happy face soon changed to very serious expression. Then the doctor woman came and told Alvin that they were calling him in a Sector B5. Then Alvin shouted, Miss Brown. We're barely having enough time to know each other, aren't we? Then Michael told Alvin, you should probably go. Then Alvin said, yes, of course. And he walked out of the room, but after 5 seconds he pulled his head back in Michael's penthouse and asked him, do you really think Project BR will work? If you do then I do too. And he shut the door. Michael turned back to the glass wall and said under his breath, of course I do. After that we get back to the survivor which are walking aimlessly in the streets. Then George suddenly remembers something and says, I think it's time we start searching for other Titans, and what better place than Skull Island? Jason and others looked at him with confused face. Then one of the survivors asked, even if we got to Skull Island and saw Titans, what then? George says, I didn't want to say this earlier cause I wasn't sure, as the matter of fact I still am not, but I think Monarch has a base there. A huge base, and I think they'll manage to take 28 people, huh? Plus we have nowhere to go and soon we will run out of food and even water. We gotta try something, people. Then Jason told him, you are nuts, old man. Then one of the survivors asked him, okay, let's go. I like the idea. But how? There is an entire ocean separating China and Skull Island. Then George thought for a moment and said, think there is a functioning yacht in several kilometers. But I'm wearing you, we'll need a lot of walking. Then Jason smiled and said, we've walked enough. I say we go to that freaking yacht right freaking now. And he put his hand on George's shoulder and asked him, where's that yacht? George answered, it's in Shantou. We'll need to walk few miles to get there. Then of the women asked them angrily, why do we have to walk? Why did you even abandon your truck, old man? George shouted back at her, because these goddamn soldiers are still patrolling this area. And seeing moving truck here is like seeing bar of gold in dirt. We're too exposed. Then he started walking away. He looked back at them and asked, are you coming or not? Jason started following him and others started following him too. After that we see Michael, which is sitting in his giant penthouse drinking a glass of water with lemon inside. Then Dr. Brown tells him that he is needed in main sector A. He says, here we go. And stands up. He stretches out his arms and starts walking towards the exit door from his house. Then he walks into hallway for about half a minute and gets into elevator. He presses buttons and goes down. Then we see controlling center with giant glass wall looking at dark empty space. Then we see Dr. Alvin Clark looking at glass wall and thinking about something. Then door opens and Michael walks in smiling. Then he stands next to Dr. Alvin and asks him, "So, is my toy ready to be played with?" Dr. Alvin smiled and told him, "That toy isn't only yours, you have to share." And started laughing. Michael also started laughing and said, "Sharing is boring, old man. But did you do what you needed Head of Mechagodzilla for?" Then he said, "Yes. Everything is completed." Then Michael shouted, "Then turn it on." And lights slowly started to turn on.